Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dan Hanford, and my wife, Danae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur. On the podcast with us today is Joe Apfelbaum. He is a business strategist, marketing expert, and certified Google trainer. He's the CEO of Ajax Union, which is a business-to-business digital marketing agency based in Brooklyn, New York. Welcome to the podcast with us, Joe.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be able to share with you guys and have a great time today.
Hi, Joe. I want you to get us started and take just a couple minutes and kind of tell us exactly what your focus is right now as an entrepreneur and business owner.
So I have a business called Ajax Union, and we are a B2B digital marketing agency based in Brooklyn, New York. And we support B2B companies that have a sales team, that have a marketing team. And essentially what they typically need is leads. They need more leads, and they need to then nurture those leads and then convert them into customers. And typically with a service business or a manufacturing company that's B2B, they don't get enough leads in their business, and they don't have their website set up properly to be able to capture leads. Often companies have been kind of just building off relationships, and relationships will only get you so far. And so we built technology where we create a really great marketing strategy to figure out who your target market is, so you can reach out to people proactively, what your value proposition actually is, so that you can create messaging that will resonate with the right target market. Once we have your marketing strategy and your business goals aligned, then we move on to create assets for your business, which means we create landing pages, lead magnets. We build out your funnel, all the different stages from the top of the funnel, which is education-based marketing, to trust-based marketing, and all the way down to getting people to actually convert. And once we have the assets built out, which includes all the automations and the lead magnets and landing pages and all the messaging, then we move on to execution, which includes all the technology that we set up, where we tell you who's coming to your website. And in the B2B space, it's very important to know which companies are coming to your website so that you can proactively reach out to them. And we record the conversations that people have with your company to identify if you're using the right scripts. And we also show you what people are doing using technology, how they move their mouse and so on. We have this really great technology set, and we have great reporting to tell you if you're getting an ROI with all the dashboards and making sure that you're hitting all your key performance indicators. And finally, we do search engine optimization. We do pay-per-click management. We do social media, both paid and organic. And then we also do email marketing so that you can keep your referral base top of mind. So essentially, as we're a digital marketing agency, we focus on B2B. And that's what our company is doing right now. I'm running that company. I've been running it for 10 years. And we've serviced over 1,100 clients. We were number 178 on the Inc. 5000 as one of the fastest growing companies in America a couple of years ago. And right now, we're really focused on more quality over quantity. We've serviced over 1,100 clients, and we're really focused on just servicing 30 of the right companies. And in my personal life, what I love doing is I love helping 1,000 hungry entrepreneurs go from frustration to motivation. So I'm really excited about the journey that I've been on. I lost 95 pounds over the past 6 years, and I used to be 265 pounds. I wrote a book called High Energy Secrets. So my goal is to sell 125,000 copies of my book. I have a podcast called The Breakthrough Maze. So I'm really excited about this journey that I'm on and helping other entrepreneurs be able to go along with me on this journey.
Well, that's pretty exciting. How long have you been an entrepreneur?
So I think I've always been an entrepreneur. I just wasn't aware that I was an entrepreneur. I used to call myself web designer. I used to call myself marketer. I used to call myself eBay power seller or IT guy. I had a bunch of different names that I called myself until one day I set my eyes on building a multi-million-dollar business. I actually just wanted to get to $1 million in revenue. And then when I got to $1 million, I wanted to get to 2 million. And when I got to 2 million, I wanted to get to 4 million. And then at that point, I joined an organization called Entrepreneurs Organization, which is an organization of 13,000 CEOs that consider themselves entrepreneurs. I always thought an entrepreneur was like this person who's kind of like hustling in the street and trying to sell like used watches or whatever. But then I realized the word entrepreneur has kind of changed over time. And now I consider myself an entrepreneur, which is a person who is enterprising, trying to always figure out ways, trying to hack, trying to figure out different ways to be able to make the world a better place. And that's what I consider myself now. But I didn't always consider myself that, but I would always try to sell something. I was always trying to make something better. My why is to find a better way. I'm always trying to find a better way.
Sure, sure. So I want to kind of dive into a tough decision that you have had to make. And I like to kind of start it off with a tough decision that didn't have that good of an outcome. I kind of call it the sore thumb tough decision. I know we don't always like to talk about them, but there's usually lots of lessons that we can learn from those tough decisions. If you had one of those tough decisions that you made and didn't turn out so well, but you learned a lot of lessons through it.
Yeah, so I bought stuff on Craigslist and sold it on eBay. And I built myself up to be a really great power seller in the early 2000s. And I was making a couple $1,000 a month doing it, and I was really happy. And at some point, a guy came over to me and said, Joe, let me manage your eBay for you. I have my own source of getting watches and all types of gadgets. You have such a great eBay account with 100% positive feedback. Why don't you allow me to take it over and you go do your web design? Because I was doing web design and IT services, and I had a website. I had a bunch of other businesses on the side. And I said, you know what? I had a very difficult time trusting people in general, trusting partners. My mother always said all her partners screwed her. My father said my grandparents' partners screwed them. So I was very not wanting to get partners and not wanting to get employees. I was like the person who was the jack of all trades, and I would do everything myself. And sometimes I would get a little bit of help, but I wouldn't trust anybody. And I didn't trust him. And I said, you know what? I'm going to trust you. I'm going to give you my eBay account. I'm going to allow you to sell stuff in it. And what ended up happening was he was super unorganized, and he ended up selling $10,000 worth of stuff, and he didn't know who he sold to, and he didn't ship it out properly, and he totally screwed up my account. And 20 or 30 people complained to eBay. They got a bunch of negative feedback. They closed down my account, and I was devastated. I was totally devastated because I was like, you see, you don't trust people. People are bad. People are going to screw you. My mother was right. My father was right. You don't trust people. If you trust people, you're going to get screwed. And so I was totally in this really bad place. And it totally, how am I going to succeed if I don't have a partner? How am I going to succeed if I can't leverage other people? I'm already getting, I already built myself up to be able to do the max that I can in 16, 18 hours a day. I was like, how am I ever going to be able to have $1 million? How am I ever going to be able to live the life of my dreams and buy a home if this guy screwed me and I'm out 10 grand and I have to go pay all these people back and this guy disappeared on me?
So you had this guy that you had found that was, helping you with this, and then you tried to turn it over so you could scale it even more, and then it kind of backfired on you.
Yeah, well, I trusted him with my account. I used to never trust anybody with anything, and this is kind of like the first time I let anybody access my eBay account, and he totally botched the whole thing up.
Wow. So what would you say, looking through that tough decision was one of the biggest things that you learned through it?
Do your due diligence before you trust somebody, because apparently this guy was doing it to many other eBay accounts as well.
Wow.
So ask him if he's ever done this with anybody before and get references. And now I actually check references. I used to not. I used to just be like, yeah, whatever. I'll just hire somebody. Now I'm like, no, give me 2 references and let me call the people.
I think as entrepreneurs, sometimes we, come out of the gate trusting everybody that comes through our table or our desk. And, a lot of times on the back end is where we get bitten, and we always come out the other end, wanting to shoot ourselves in the foot, because we should have, looked at that ahead of time. And like you said, done the due diligence beforehand. And even though you might trust somebody, still do your due diligence and put some checks and balances in place, to make sure certain things don't happen. And I right now work with several virtual assistants, and I make sure I put certain checks and balances in place, and that way there's always a barrier there, and not because I don't trust them, but one of the things that I always tell my team is I put certain things in place, these checks and balances, not because I don't trust you, it's because I don't ever want to have a reason not to trust you. And to have those kind of conversations up front is really important when you try to do some of those types of partnerships or bringing on other people on your team.
I totally agree with that. And here's something else in terms of checks and balances. I didn't set up systems and processes or even checklists for him to be able to review. I didn't even sit with him to see what his process is. I didn't sit with him and say, hey, what's your process for selling online? How do you know who you're going to sell to? Nothing. I just said, yeah, okay, I'll trust you. Here you go. Do it. You seem like a really good guy. You're a smooth talker. Instead, why don't we sell something together? Let me see what you're doing. Let me see where you're buying it from. Let me spend some time with you. Instead of me just trying to make a couple dollars real quick and hoping for the best, why don't you go there and inspect it? Inspect what you expect. If you expect this guy not to screw up your account, take a moment and make sure that his process is the same way that your process is. And I didn't do that. I just basically just trusted him, walked away, and got screwed.
Yeah. So let's shift a little bit here to a tough decision that you had that had a really good and positive outcome and some of the lessons you learned through that one.
So at one point, I was the CMO of the watchery.com. It was an organization that I helped build from $3 million to $40 million in revenue. And they were selling luxury watches online. I got them to be number one on Google for the word luxury watch. I even beat Amazon for Amazon had site links. I figured out how to break the site links and become number one. And also for all their 10 major brands that they sold, I got them number one for the keyword with the word watches, with the word luxury watch, with the word gold watch, ladies watch. I basically got them number one on Google for all those words. Plus, I managed their PPC. Plus, I created a whole very, very robust social media campaign and an affiliate campaign. So I really helped the business grow. I had a really great budget to work with, and I had a really great team of 200 people to kind of like help me be able to build up the company pretty rapidly. But at the end of the day, I was feeling secure there. I had great insurance. I had a great six-figure salary, but I also had 7 other side hustles. So after I finished work at 5 o'clock, I would run home, have dinner with the wife, and then go to my second office. And I had a bunch of different part-time people doing different businesses for me, and I was trying to make it big. I was trying to figure out which one of these things are going to make it big. And then one day, about 18 months into me working on Ajax Union, which was one of my side hustles with my partner, Zevi Friedman, it started taking off, and we had 30 clients, and we were on pace to have a few employees. And my partner's like, all right, Joe, we can afford to pay you that salary that you're getting paid at the watchery. Why don't you come work here full time so we can build this into a $1 million business? And I said, that sounds exciting. That's exactly what I want to do because I'm doing okay personally. So let me go to my boss. Let me go to my CEO, which is my mentor, because I always had really great relationships. And let me ask him what he thinks, how he can help me make this very difficult decision to leave my great job as a CMO and go be the CEO of my own company. So I walked into the office. I sat with him, and he's like, oh, how are your side hustles? I said, Ajax Union is really taking off. And then I asked him the question. I said, my partner thinks I should go work full-time for the company, but I really love working here. I love what I've done. He's like, I love you working here as well. And I do love what you have done, but I think it's time for you to move on. What I'll do for you is I will support you fully, and I will become your biggest client. I gave him a big hug, and I was like, wow, I can't believe you do that for me. And I went to go work on my own. Now, that's one big tough decision that I made that turned out really well. But there was another decision I had to make that was even tougher, that was a much bigger risk. As soon as I showed up to the office ready to work full time, my partner looked at me and he said, if we want to build this to $1 million business, this is the only thing that you can do. I was like, what do you mean? What am I going to do with all my other companies? He's like, close them down or roll them in or sell them. You cannot do anything else other than this company if we're going to be building it. I was like, I already quit my job. He's like, dude, this is the only option we have. So I said, okay, let me see what I can do. So I started going through all my stuff, and I had a construction company. I sold it to one of my operators. I had a IT company. I sold it to the guy that was actually executing the IT work for me. The web design company and the marketing portion of it, I kind of rolled in, and some of the other websites that I was doing weren't making that much money, so I just closed them down. And I was like, all right, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to go all in, but I'm really, really scared because I just got rid of, a bunch of money that I was making. I'm still making some because I sold stuff, but this has to work. I kind of burnt the boats. I have nothing else other than Ajax Union. And it was a very difficult decision, and most businesses fail, but I put everything I had into it with no way out. And that year we did $500,000. The next year we did $1 million, then $2 million, and then we kept growing from there. So that was a very tough decision that really worked out well. It was kind of like 2 decisions I had to make over a very short period of time. It was very stressful, but I did it, and I didn't ever look back.
So, Joe, how many partners do you have in the Ajax Union business?
When I started a business, it was just me and my partner, Zevi. 3 years ago, he left the business. After we hit the Inc. 5000, we were running out of cash, and we were looking for loans, and an investor came in and said, hey, I'd love to put a bunch of money into your company if you guys want to double again. And we said, okay, great. He gave us a great evaluation, so we did it. So at that point, we had 3 partners, but they're kind of silent at this point, and I'm just running it myself.
And how many employees do you have with that business?
So right now we have 15 employees. Some of them are full-time in our office. Many of them are kind of remote that are working for us. We used to have 75 full-time people in our office, but I got rid of the IT guy and I hired an IT company. I got rid of the bookkeeper and I hired a bookkeeping service. I got rid of all the ancillary stuff that I didn't need. And my goal is to be completely virtual in the next year.
Wow. So I have a couple of things there I've just been thinking about. First of all, that decision that you made to give up everything else, I think that's probably one of the hardest things that an entrepreneur can do is focus on one thing because it's just so much a part of them. I can't imagine if I asked Dan to close everything and focus on one thing, but also just the tremendous growth that you've had since then. And then also I'm thinking about, how lean you've become by outsourcing all those things that you don't really need. So all of those things working together have obviously made you guys really successful.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, a business cannot grow if it doesn't have cash. And at a certain point, we kept investing our cash in our business. And even though our clients were prepaying us, we were dealing with small businesses, and many of them were going out of business faster than we were able to keep servicing them. They would just, sign up and they would be around for 8 months or whatever, and then they would just close their doors because, that's what businesses do. They just go out of business. And so we had to figure out how to change our demographic and pivot. Servicing 1,100 clients, you kind of learn and see what's going on and see where you're at. So we kind of learned a lot. I never went to business school. So for me, this was my Ajax Union was kind of like my business school. This was like me learning everything, how to do HR, how to do recruiting, how to deal with the government, how to deal with people, how to close accounts that are paying us $1 million a year, like figuring out how to be able to do networking, how to do public speaking. Google came over to me to become a certified Google trainer, and I didn't know what a seminar was, and I've never gone to a seminar or done a seminar. And then I got up to do a seminar. I was frightened. I was like, I can't do this. This is not something that I can do. And then I went to coaching and I took classes and I practiced. And I've been able to give seminars to over 10,000 business owners over the past 5 years. And the reason why I'm on this podcast is because I got over my fear of public speaking. Otherwise, I would be like completely and totally under a rock right now.
Talk a little bit about the strategies or techniques that you use to make these difficult decisions. As an entrepreneur who runs a business, you have difficult decisions every day. So how do you approach a difficult decision and make a good decision?
So if you focused on your goal, most people are making decisions based on their emotions. And that's the worst thing that you can do. Just make a decision based on your emotions, because your emotion is like the ocean. It keeps changing. One day it's high, one day it's low. One day it's fast, one day it's slow. So instead of focusing on making decisions based on your emotions in the moment, think about your goal. What do you want? I know that for me, I wanted to be a multimillionaire. I wanted to have a business that generates millions of dollars a year, and I didn't want to be the one doing the work. I finally found a partner that I can trust that showed me that he was trustworthy. So I said, I got to go all in with this partner. And if I don't go all in now, and he has built many successful companies in the past, if I don't go all in with him now, then I'll never know. So at that point, focusing on your goal, knowing that this is my goal. I want to build a multi-million-dollar business. I want to get to 1 million. I want to get to 2 million. I want to be able to have the freedom to be able to go on vacation with my family and not necessarily do the work, but make sure that I find people to do the work and learn what it means to be a business owner as opposed to a freelancer or an operator. That is something that I wanted to experience and learn how to do. So if you know what your goal is and you're really focused on your goal, like one of the most important things that you learn about decision, it's one of the chapters in one of the 13 principles of riches in Think and Grow Rich. I don't know if have you guys ever read Think and Grow Rich?
I believe Dan has read that.
It's such a powerful book, and there's a whole chapter on decision. I highly recommend you guys read it. It's small chapter, but it talks about how to make decisions and how not to procrastinate. And it's all about understanding what your goal is, making sure that your goal is super clear, that it's written down, that it's a SMART goal, that it's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound. And if you have SMART goals and they're written down, then you're going to be able to make the really tough decisions, because you look at your goal and say, is this getting me closer to my goal? Or is this decision going to be putting me further from my goal? So if I have to fire an employee, I look at and I say, what's my goal? If my goal is to be profitable and this employee is not profitable, how am I going to get to my goal if I keep this employee? Although I might like this employee, emotionally I might want to keep this employee, but I'm not going to be able to get to my goal. The same thing, if I need to make a difficult decision not to eat a bunch of slices of pizza that are just sitting there winking at me, right? The pizza's saying, hey, eat me, Joe. Come on, eat me now. And I'm looking at the pizza and I'm thinking to myself, I got to make a really difficult decision. But then I weigh myself and I see that I'm 265 pounds and I want to lose weight. I can't eat things that create fat in my body. I got to make the difficult decision not to eat the pizza. So if you know what your goal is, your difficult decisions become easier. They're still going to be difficult because you're taking a certain level of risk. But if you're willing to take the risk, you see, now one of the things that I'm doing is I'm day trading. So I'm learning how to buy and sell stocks in a very high pressure situation. And you got to make a lot of difficult decisions of when to buy and when to sell. But if when you're buying, you know when you're going to sell, then your decision to buy is much easier. You know when you're going to sell on the downside, you know when you're going to sell on the upside. So the decision becomes easier. There's still a risk and it's still a tough decision, but it's easier if you know what your goal is going in. Does that make sense?
Sure. I mean, anything you can do to simplify so that in the moment, the decision becomes as, cut and dry as possible. That totally makes sense. We're going to take a quick break here and hear from one of our show sponsors. When we come back, we'll talk to Joe about some of his favorite things as it relates to his life as an entrepreneur.
Have you ever thought about investing in real estate, but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HanfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HanfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD Capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HanfordCapital.com. All right, we are back, and we are going to be going through a series of quick questions and answers called the trifecta. And so first, I want you to start us off by telling us, Joe, what is your most favorite technology that you use in business that helps make your life easier?
In business, one of my most favorite technologies is actually Google Sheets. People don't know how powerful Google Sheets are. And
I love
create
the
all
Google
these
Sheets.
amazing dashboards. I have a bunch of add-ins and plugins, and all the Google stuff is amazing. Google Docs is great. I can speak to Google Docs, and it just writes it for me. There's so many great features that you can leverage using Google's technology. But Google Sheets with pivot tables and automations and integrations, we have something called Smart Sheets, which we create custom dashboards for our clients and their marketing. And for my own coaching clients, I do one-on-one coaching and group coaching. I create all these amazing dashboards for people to track their KPIs, and we share it and we review it, and I have a whole brainstorming dashboard. I have like this whole thing that I created on Google Sheets. So for me, one of my favorite technologies is definitely Google Sheets.
What is a favorite quote that you've heard that's helped you as an entrepreneur?
One of my favorite quotes I have so many favorite quotes because I'm like a quote junkie. I love collecting quotes. So one of my favorite quotes is, I think it was Bruce Lee said something like, the average person with laser-like focus, right? If you can achieve anything you want, if you are the average person, but you have laser-like focus, you can achieve anything you want. So the idea of focusing for me is so powerful. And when I hear that quote, it really resonates with me because you don't have to be this magical person. If you could be an average person and you can have laser-like focus, you can accomplish anything.
And what is one book that you've read that has helped you in the way you make decisions or run your business?
There's one book called Getting Things Done by David Allen. Powerful book. Have you guys read the book Getting Things Done?
I have not read it, but I have heard it recommended a couple of times.
Usually like 10 books that I recommend. So when somebody says, oh, what's your favorite book? Or what's a book that impacts you? I basically ramble off 10 books. But, getting things done is so powerful. It's actually become our competitive advantage at Ajax Union. It's mandatory reading for every single employee. So there's so many amazing books that have impacted me in so many different ways.
So, Joe, I want to, tell you that I really appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule to come out and do the podcast with us today. What's the best way for our listeners to reach out to you if they have further questions for you or want to follow you or contact you with Ajax or those kind of things?
Well, the best way to contact me is through my website, joeapfelbaum.com. You could sign up to my weekly newsletter on joeapfelbaum.com. I send out a weekly newsletter. Also, I have a Motivation group on Facebook, MOJOVITION. I post a 10-minute video there every single day. I have a group of, my goal is to have 1,000 hungry entrepreneurs in the group. I have like 590 as we speak that are engaged and that are excited about the content that I produce there and that are changing their lives one step at a time. I'm available on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. I'm all over the place. And our website's www.ajaxunion.com. And most importantly, if you're struggling with your weight and you want to learn what I did to lose the weight and keep it off, get my book, High Energy Secrets. It's available on Amazon. And I literally walk people through the step-by-step process to be able to go from wherever they are right now to losing their weight and keeping it off.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for, again, spending some time with us today. Look forward to having you on a future podcast as you continue to grow as an entrepreneur.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. And get motivated! Yes!
Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.